A shocking new twist in the hunt for the killer of those two Indiana teenagers 5 years ago. It centers on this man, Ron Logan, who owned the property where the bodies of Abby Williams and Libby German were found. An FBI search warrant has just been released, revealing they searched Logan's home. Logan has been the focus of attention from day one. Inside Edition's Stephen Fabian interviewed him in 2017.
You just cannot believe this terrible thing that happened to the community and the families actually happened here on my property in my backyard.
He claimed he had an alibi, buying tropical fish 20 miles away.
I was not home during the time that all this was happening. I was in Lafayette. Yeah. And I didn't get home till approximately 6:30 in the evening, and then the neighbor stopped to ask for permission to look back here for the girls.
Libby German shot this chilling image of the killer approaching the girls on a hiking trail, and she recorded the killer's voice.
What do you hear on there?
Nothing that I recognize at all. No one. I don't recognize the voice at all.
Stephen asked Ron Logan to repeat those same chilling words. Listen.
Down the hill.
The newly revealed search warrant says Ron Logan's voice was not inconsistent with that of the person in the video. And that image of the suspect, the warrant declares Logan's physical build is consistent with the suspect. Logan had his own take.
The picture is of such poor quality, it doesn't look like anyone I've ever seen.
We spoke to Anya Kane and Kevin Greenlee of the true crime podcast Murder Sheet. They obtained the warrant.
I'm not necessarily convinced that Ron Logan was involved in this. Some of the circumstantial evidence against him is intriguing and should absolutely be looked at.
Logan is now dead, reportedly of COVID. He was never charged in the case, and it is unclear whether he was ever considered an official suspect.
As News reporter David McAnally went back to the scene of the crime today, where neighbors still don't understand how this could happen to two young girls. Dave?
As police continue a very methodical investigation here, going down every road in the search for clues, some folks who live near the crime scene, they fear that their road will never be the same. The crime scene Thursday, a place property owner Ron Logan knows well, but never thought he would know for something so tragic.
I can't really wrap my emotions around it yet. It's so mind-boggling. I haven't really caught up. It hasn't caught up with me yet.
Up and down the hills, across that bank now circled with crime tape, his son grew up playing here.
Never in your wildest dreams do you think that he comes down here to play, he won't come back home.
He and his friends grieve for the victims, Libby German and Abigail Williams, both 13.
That's why we come back. He goes, I want to show you what it looks like. You couldn't carry someone up and down these hills, or it's hard to walk by yourself.
We've been able to identify almost everybody else that's been on that trail, and this gentleman has not been identified, and we want to know what he saw, what he might have seen on the trail. Did he see somebody else that maybe some of the others didn't see?
The Sheriff's Department says the trail photos of a man released Wednesday have brought in about 200 tips, and they're checking every one of them, they say. Police want to talk to the man because he was on the trail about the same time as the victims.
I think they feel confident that we're going to get this guy or guys that were involved in this, and I think they're feeling confident that it's going to happen sooner than later.
Back at the crime scene, hoping for answers.
This place is never going to be the same. It'll never be the same, will it? Yeah. I mean, everybody will be. They'll be very vigilant now from here on out when they come down here.
All right, that's David McAnally tonight in Delphi. Now here's another look at the man police are so desperate to talk to. Again, they have not said he's a suspect or a person of interest. Instead, investigators believe that he is the only person they haven't identified who was in the area at that time.
John and Andrea, people here in Delphi are cautious tonight about saying too much of anything. Many of them knew these two young girls and they know their families, and they are just finding it still very difficult to talk about what happened. On the outskirts of town, though, where police found the two teens' bodies, people are talking, sharing their disbelief and anger. Against the beauty of the sunshine and bright blue skies Wednesday, it was still hard for Ron Logan to believe the violence visited upon two young teens just out for a hike on a day off from school.
Who would have thought they'd let their children out to do something special that day, take a trip down, and it turned out a disaster like this.
For 53 years, Logan's lived on the country road near the trail that leads to the Monon High Bridge.
People walk up and down with their children, and yeah, it's quite a nice little trail, and the bridge is real.
Never, though, has Logan seen anything like what he has this week, the search for an eventual discovery of the bodies of Libby German and Abby Williams.
The area that they were in is very hard to get to. I mean, you can't get there unless you walk there. I mean, so somebody would be walking with them or something.
Those are the same kind of thoughts Marvin Sandifer keeps mulling over. His daughter used to hike the same trail.
She said, I've seen a couple scruffy-looking guys back in there, but, you know, they never bothered me. They went on their way.
Sandifer is anxious for investigators to identify a suspect.
I'm not really scared. I'm just worried that it would happen again.
That's why he hopes someone knows or saw something on that trail Monday and can lead investigators down the right path soon.
I hope they catch him tonight, and I hope they make him pay.
And with the release tonight of the picture of that unknown man seen walking on the trail Monday afternoon, people here are hoping investigators are that much closer to discovering who is responsible for taking these two young lives.
13 Investigators obtained a search warrant that's a request related to this investigation.
Senior investigative reporter Bob Siegel says the document sheds new light on the murders.
A month after Abby and Libby were murdered, an FBI special agent asked a judge to authorize a search warrant of the massive property where the bodies were found. The property was owned by Ronald Logan, and 13 News was there when officers served Logan a search warrant in March of 2017. The FBI got permission to search the entire property, including Logan's home, garage, his pickup truck, computers, and cell phones. Now we know exactly why the judge granted the warrant. In her request, the FBI agent wrote, "I believe there is probable cause to believe that Ronald Logan has committed the crime of murder, and evidence of that could be found on Ronald Logan's property." The special agent then went on to give plenty of information about why she believed Logan was responsible. We'll get to that in a moment, but first, the warrant request has new information about the crime scene that has not been released before. The FBI agent confirmed one of the victims was missing an article of clothing. There was no visible signs of a struggle or fight. At the crime scene, investigators recovered fibers and unidentified hairs. And the agent wrote, it also appeared the girls' bodies were moved and staged by whoever committed the murder. Now, as far as the FBI's interest in Logan, first, you might remember this chilling video that was recovered from Libby's cell phone. State police believe it shows the murder suspect telling the girls to go down the hill. State police released those few seconds of video in the hopes that the public might help identify the killer. In her warrant request, the FBI agent confirmed the video clip is actually 43 seconds long. And she said Logan's physical build is consistent with that of the male suspect videotaped by Libby on the Monon High Bridge Trail. Logan's voice is not inconsistent with that of the person in the video. The FBI agent also said Logan asked a relative to create a fake alibi for him for the afternoon the girls were reported missing. She also said cell phone tower data showed Logan's cell phone was in the area where the girls went missing the afternoon they disappeared. And later that night, cell phone tower data showed Logan's phone in proximity to where Libby and Abby's bodies were eventually found. Investigators also interviewed two women who had been in a relationship with Logan, and both reported that he was physically abusive. One told investigators Logan threatened her and said he could kill her and no one would find her body. Now, Ron Logan died in 2020. It's important to note he was never formally named a suspect or charged in the murders. This search warrant was first reported by the Murder Sheet podcast.
Police, early on, they had suspicions about Ronald Logan.
Yeah, Phil and Alexis, this FBI search warrant is only 9 pages long, but it provides surprising new detail on the crime scene in Carroll County and why investigators began to question the possible role of Ronald Logan, who owned the land where the girls were found.
You can see Ronald Logan here on his property in this video shot by Wish TV in 2017, just days after the murders of Abby Williams and Libby German. By that time, the FBI says Logan had already lied to investigators about what he was doing on the day the girls disappeared.
Monday afternoon, I was in Lafayette Aquarium World getting tropical fish for my aquarium. So when I came home, one of the neighbors stopped and asked permission to come back here and look for the missing girls, and that's the first time I knew anything about it. So I fooled with my tropical fish the whole time that the search was going on Monday night, but then they didn't find them until Tuesday around noon or 1 or whatever it was.
Investigators believe Logan asked his cousin to lie about driving him to an aquarium store in Lafayette on the afternoon of February 13th. Police arrested Logan for violating his probation on charges of DUI and driving on a suspended license. He appeared in court March 13th on the charge. The next day, March 14th, a state police spokesperson tweeted, "Reports connecting Ronald Logan to the Delphi murders is false. Probation violation. No connection to murder investigation." But a search warrant filed by an FBI agent 3 days later, March 17th, says, "I believe there is probable cause to believe that Ronald Logan has committed the crime of murder, and evidence of that can be found on Ronald Logan's property. And that based on investigators' experience, it is reasonable to believe that the creation of an alibi prior to the discovery of a crime indicates culpability or knowledge of the crime." Logan pleaded guilty to a new charge of being a habitual traffic violator on April 3rd, 2017. He was sentenced to 2 years in prison, a sentence that would eventually be reduced to home detention. The search warrant application reveals never before discussed details about the crime scene and how the girls were found. The agent says a large amount of blood was lost by the victims at the crime scene. The agent also says authorities found that 2 articles of clothing from one of the girls was missing from the crime scene, while the rest of their clothing was recovered. It also appeared the girls' bodies were moved and staged.
Ronald Logan has never been publicly named a suspect in Abby and Libby's murders. He's also not been charged in the case. Logan died in 2020. He was charged with a probation violation for driving with a suspended license. Now, I sent several detailed questions to Indiana State Police and was told they cannot comment on this case.